Dear students, we are going to configure this packet tracer activity. In this activity, we are going to configure SSH secure shell. Let us look at this scenario. PC1 is connected with switch 1. We are going to access the switch remotely, or we are going to remotely manage the switch through SSH. There are two remote management access protocols are there. One is Telnet, another one is SSH. We studied the basics of SSH and Telnet. Compared to Telnet, SSH is very secure. So, in this activity, we will discuss how to configure SSH, how to remotely access the switch through SSH protocol. First, look at here. The addressing table is provided. In the addressing table, the addressing information of switch 1 and switch 2 are provided. Switch 1 VLAN interface address is provided. Switch 2, PC1 IP address and subnet mask is provided here. Let us discuss about the objectives of this packet tracer activity. In part 1, we are going to configure the secure password. In part 2, we are going to configure the encrypted communication. In part 3, we are going to verify the SSH implementation. We know that SSH replaced the Telnet for management connection due to its security feature. We know that Telnet uses insecure plain text communication. That is the drawback of the Telnet. Due to that, we are not using the Telnet. SSH provides security for remote connection by providing strong encryption of all transmitted data between devices. In this activity, you will secure a remote switch with password encryption and SSH. Any packet tracer activity, if you configure, first thing, you have to read the instructions clearly. In all the packet tracer activities, the instructions are provided. You have to carefully read and understand the instruction. Let us read the instructions provided in this activity. Part 1, secure password. We are going to secure the passwords using the command prompt on PC1. Okay, telnet201. The user exe mode and privilege exe mode password is Cisco. See, clearly the instruction was given. You have to understand. Using command prompt on PC1, telnet201. Okay, how do you do this? The instruction is very clear. You have to understand properly. So we are asked to, okay, telnet to S1 from the PC1. If you want to telnet to switch 1, first you should know the IP address of switch 1. What is the SVI, switched virtual interface address configured in S1? The VLAN 1 address 10.10.10.2. If you want to access any device remotely, first you should know the IP address of the device. If you want to telnet switch 1, first you have to find out the IP address of switch 1. Okay, now go to PC1. Right. Now physical config desktop. Now go to the third tab. Now select the IP configuration dialog, terminal, and then command prompt. Select the fourth one, this one. Now here, if you want to access the switch remotely by using the telnet protocol, you have to type telnet followed by the IP address of the switch. The IP address of the switch is 10.10.10.2. 10.10.10.2. Now, the passwords for the user exe mode and privilege exe mode is already provided. The user exe and privilege exe mode password is Cisco. It is provided in the activity. Now type the password Cisco. If you type the password, then it will allow you to access the user exe mode. Now type the command enable and press the enter key. If you press the enter key, again it will ask the password. Now you have to enter the password for the privilege exe mode. Again, the same Cisco is the password for the privilege exe mode. Type Cisco. Done. We are able to access the privilege exe mode of the switch. Now we will read the next instruction. Save the current configuration so that any mistakes you might make can be reversed by toggling the power off switch 1. We are going to save the current configuration. How do you do that one? You can type the command copy, run, start. If you execute this command, the current configuration will be saved or it will create a startup configuration file. Okay, it will prompt. So you have to press the enter key. So the startup configuration file is created. If you see here, the destination file name, startup configuration, building, configuration, okay. That means the startup configuration file is created in the NVRAM. All the configurations are stored in the NVRAM. The current configurations are stored in the NVRAM. Now we move to the instruction C. Show the current configuration and note that the passwords are in the plain text. Enter the command that encrypts all the plain text password. First thing, we have to verify whether the commands are available in the plain text. Passwords are available in the plain text or encrypted text. How to do that? Execute the command show run. SSH is the short form of show. Run is the short form of running config. Show running config. So you can use show run, SSH run. Now I'm going to verify this. The passwords are stored as the plain text. Enable password is stored as a plain text. And then line VTY password is stored as a plain text. So the passwords are stored as a plain text. Our next activity is we have to enter the command to encrypt all the plain text password. How to encrypt all the plain text password? You have to use the command service password encryption in the global configuration mode. So enter the global configuration mode. Config T. So configure terminal is the command. The short form of that command is config T. Now execute the command service password encryption. Service password hyphen encryption. Let us check. Exit, show, run. Okay. So enable password is encrypted here. After executing the service password encryption command, the enable password is encrypted. Let us see the line VTY password. Yes, line VTY password also encrypted. So the service password encryption command encrypted all the passwords. Okay, we have completed the D, instruction D. So part 1 over. Let us go to part 2. In part 2, we are going to encrypt the communication. To encrypt the communication, we will follow the steps. Step 1. Set the IP domain name and generate the secure key. So to do this, you have to go to the global configuration mode. Okay. Now, it is generally not safe to use the telnet because the data is transferred in the form of plain text in telnet. Therefore, you have to use SSH whenever it is available. So to use the SSH, first we have to configure the SSH. The first step in configuring SSH is creating a domain, configuring a domain. Okay. The given domain name is netacad.pka. We are going to configure this domain. How to configure this domain? Go to the global config mode, configure terminal, type the command IP domain hyphen name. What is the domain name provided here? The provided domain name is netacad.pka. 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 This is the domain name provided in the instruction. So create the domain name. So domain name is created by using the command IP domain name followed by netacad.pka. Domain name is created. Now the next thing is you have to enable the SSH. We already discussed. A command is used to enable the SSH. Also, it is used to create the key for encryption and decryption. So what is that command? The command is crypto key generate RSA. Crypto key generate RSA is algorithm. If you press enter, it will ask you enter the key size. Now the key size is given in the instruction. You have to enter the key at the size of 1024. I hope you all studied cryptography, so you know that. So the key size, I'm entering 1024. It is given in the instruction. Sometimes they will give 2048 also. So you have to carefully look at the key size in the instruction. Then you have to apply the key size in the configuration. So now we have done generating 1024-bit RSA keys. Keys will be non-exportable. Okay. So it is activated the SSH. Also, it has created the keys for the RSA algorithm for encryption and decryption. And the size of the key is 1024. So in part 2, we finished step 1. Let us go to step 2. In step 2, we are going to create an SSH user and reconfigure the VTY line for SSH only access. First, we are going to create a SSH user. So how to create a user? What is the username? What is the password? We are going to create a user. The username is administrator. And along with that, you have to configure the password. The password is a secret password, that is Cisco. So the username and the passwords are provided. We are going to create the username along with the password. So to create the username, the command is username administrator. So you have to see the username administrator. Okay. So you have to configure very carefully. So I will configure the username. So the username, where is the username? Here is the username, administrator. I'm going to type that administrator. Next thing is password. So it is recommended to create the secret password because it is an encrypted password. So I'll type secret. What is the given password? The given password is Cisco. What is that? Cisco. So apply the password here. Cisco. Done. If you execute this command, SSH 5 enabled, SSH 1.9 has been enabled. Okay. So the moment you create the username, it has enabled the SSH. So we have completed that part. Go to the next step. We have to configure the VTY line to check the local username database for login credentials and to only allow the SSH for remote access, and then removing the existing VTY line password. Okay, so few things we have to do. Okay, what are the things? You have to configure the VTY line to check local username database for login. Okay, how do you do that one? First, go to line VTY, virtual terminal lines 0 to 15. Okay, what you are going to do now? Configure the VTY line to check the okay. So first, transport input SSH. Okay, all the transport input SSH. Then now you have to specify to verify the username and password in the local database. So login local, done. Finally, what is given here? Remove the existing video align password. Already some password is configured. How to remove the existing password? No password. That's it. We have completed step 2. Right. We have reached 100% completion. Now we are going to verify the SSH implementation. To do that, first we have to exit the telnet session and we have to try to log in using the telnet. Whether the telnet is able to use or not, we are going to check, verify. Okay, how to do that? I'll type exit. Again, I'll type exit. Again, I'll type exit. Now, I'm going to use the same command, telnet 10.10.2. I'm using the telnet protocol to access the switch remotely. Let us see if we execute the command, what happens, whether we are able to access the telnet or not. So now, when I execute the command, so connection to 10.10.2 closed by foreign host. So when you configure SSH, it is not allowing telnet to access. Right, now we will try to access the switch by using the SSH. I will type SSH, the protocol name, and then I will press enter. Okay. So if you try, it will tell you how to use the SSH. The parameters are given here. The command structure is provided here. You have to use SSH space -L followed by the username. We created the username as administrator and then followed by the target. Target is the IP address of the switch. The IP address of the switch is 10.10.2. When you type SSH, it will tell you how to access the switch by using the SSH. The command structure for the usage of SSH will be provided in the help. So now follow that, SSH space -L followed by the username. We created the username. I hope you all remember. Here we created the username. The username is administrator. So type the username administrator followed by the IP address of the switch. The IP address of the switch is 10.10.10.2. So now we are going to type this here. 10.10.10.2. Password. What is the password we configured for this username? Administrator followed by the secret. We configured the password as Cisco. So I'm going to configure that. Type the password Cisco. When you type the password, you are not able to see that password. It is not visible to you. So now I'm going to type enable. Already we know the password for the privilege exe mode. I'm going to type that password Cisco. I'm able to access the switch. Okay, I'm going to save the configuration now. For that, copy, run, start, done. Or else you can use write also. That is also one of the command. The short form of write is WR. So we have completed step 3. We have completed step 3. That's all. This is a very easy activity. We reached 100%. Okay. If you want to, if you have done some mistakes, if you are not able to reach 100%, go to the check result and then go to the assessment items, find out where you have done the mistake, and then again close this window, go back to the configuration, again try to rectify your mistake, fix your errors. Okay, thank you.